Hello and welcome to this special podcast that we're going to be doing all about kings and queens. We've actually got a series of episodes that we're going to be recording, and we're really excited about this because Rose and I are really passionate about marriages and making sure that there's great relationships within the kingdom of God. So we're going to get to share some things through these different podcasts, which we're doing our Sunday series, which is the main event where we're going to be capturing messages that speak into relationships, into marriage, into singleness. And I think it's just going to be a great month that we're doing this. I'm really excited for it. But we also realize that we can't do everything that we want to do on a Sunday. So we thought we'd film these podcasts. We've got these extra episodes. We're going to do some extra content. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. How are you feeling about the series coming up?
I'm very excited about the series. I'm very excited about Kings and Queens. I think that whenever we have the opportunity to speak as a church about relationships and about how we look after each other and how we value each other, I always think there's just a really nice ripple effect across the whole church, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're dating. In a way, there's fruit, whatever season of life you're in, because as soon as we start to look at people, how amazing they are, maybe a little bit of romance, maybe not if that's not your season, but I think as soon as we start talking about valuing people and loving people well and celebrating people and honouring people, it's always just a really great place to be as a church. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to hearing some people's stories, getting to know some people differently, maybe having some conversations that are a little bit different around relationships and marriage and some of the things that lots of us spend our time thinking about and not necessarily talking about in church. I'm excited for it. It's going to be great.
Come on. It's going to be great fun. And we're going to get some other people on these episodes, aren't we? And get some other voices in.
Hear some stories, I'm sure. It's going to be great.
Yes. It's going to be great. So watch out. It's going to be coming up. We're going to be releasing them over the coming weeks. But we want to start off this first one, just me and you talking, even before this series has begun yet, so that we can start getting people thinking in this way. Because as we start to give time and attention to relationships, we really believe it's one of those things, as you invest and you spend some time thinking about your relationship, you get more intentional with it.
Yep.
And then when you get more intentional, you see more fruit, you see more growth and change. So
true.
I believe that the church should have the healthiest relationships in any community in the world. We should have the best marriages, the best relationships.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting as we come to around God's word and start aligning with that and looking at it, studying it, and then applying it to see how we can grow in those relationships.
Yeah.
Now, we call this series Kings and Queens.
Yes.
And there's this whole idea of royalty. Now, some people are into this kind of idea, aren't they, of like, calling each other my queen. And I mean, you call me king all the time.
What the actual heck? That is not true.
Oh, my king.
Take it back.
I don't think you've ever...
King Josh. My lord.
I think I'd die a little bit if you did that. Now, I don't really say my queen. I know a lot of people do go for that. I see that on the gram. I see people saying my queen.
Sure.
But I'm not gone for that one. I call you my bean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically the same. I think it's as honouring and
so you've
glorious.
got Queen and Bean,
Right.
and you're my Bean.
Yeah.
And sometimes I call her Mrs. B.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Mrs.
people
B.
wonder, what's the B for?
Yeah, he also calls me Mrs. S a lot of the time. Yeah.
But the B is for Bean, Mrs. Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Which she often then comes back to me that makes me Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
Which
Come on, Mr. Bean.
he's an English comedian. Check him out if you've not seen Mr. Bean. Anyway, so Rose, we're talking all about this relationship series, Kings and Queens, and I was thinking it would be great to start with a bit of our story about how we got together. So we were young. We were just 16. You were 16. I was 17 years old. It was 2003.
Wow.
Take the people back, Rose.
Sure.
Tell a bit of the story of our get together.
Okay, I'll start it and then you chip in.
Okay.
One thing that not many people know about me, or I think people don't guess about me, is I actually have quite a horrible memory. So I'll see what I can remember and then you'll add great details like what was number one at that time or what year it was. I never know these things. But I was 16 and I was a part of a little church in rural Herefordshire in the UK. And we had a small but fantastic youth group that got together regularly. And in that youth group was your cousin. And we had been friends, really close friends, since we were about 11. So by the age of 16, we were having sleepovers all the time. We were hanging out all the time, me and Josh's cousin and a little group of us females in the church there. And we were loving life. We were loving church community. We were loving spending time together, loving our little lives in the chapel in Herefordshire. And one kind of pre-summer, would you say it was like, it's just coming up on summertime, Josh started coming around and visiting his cousin plenty and visiting his auntie and uncle some. And just all of our kind of summer time together was filled with church activities. So we would do quizzes and volleyball tournaments and car treasure hunts. Like every weekend there was something going on.
You had an awesome youth group.
It was really, really great. It was so fun. We loved spending time together, and Josh and, occasionally some of your brothers or your cousin.
I'd drag anyone I could bring with me.
They just ended up being there. And I think partly it was because it was fantastic community.
Yeah, sure. It was. It was great, but that was not my motivation.
But I think, it became apparent. Josh doesn't actually really hide things. If he's thinking something, he is talking about it. It's on his face.
Yeah.
And over the course of those few weeks of the summertime together, Josh not only was present, but was very obviously interested in spending time with me, which is very flattering. That he did a lot of staring, and he's got quite a single focus.
That's right.
So it was
I thought in a moment she's going to look round and we're going to lock eyes.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be this amazing moment. But I had to obviously keep looking at her to create this moment. But Rose avoided eye contact.
Absolutely,
at all costs.
Yeah.
So that just left me being an absolute starer.
And
it was so
everyone
intense.
in the whole community knew because
She's gonna look
he was so unsubtle. I was a little bit terrified.
I don't recommend it.
We call it your stalker years.
Yeah, it wasn't years, stalker's weeks.
Stalker's
It was a very effective time.
But I was a bit horrified because I was 16, I had a plan for my life, and that plan did not involve falling in love or getting married. And I don't know why, but I think even as we're joking about it, I couldn't look you in the eye. I couldn't really spend time one-on-one with you. I found it horrendously embarrassing. But I think it's because I kind of knew that this is maybe something that could actually really be a serious thing, even though we hadn't really spoken. It was weird. Sometimes I think you just have a kind of like a bit of a revelation that there could be something here. And it was, for me, it was a bit scary, which sounds silly, but I was 16 and I didn't really know what to expect. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of, fun things with this church community through the summer, but I think I knew in the back of my mind, I think this boy's actually interested in me and maybe this could go somewhere. So I was a bit scared by that. So I did just completely avoid eye contact. I avoided spending time alone with him. I avoided giving him any kind of clue that I was maybe interested. And so I was a bit of a blank sheet, wasn't I? You couldn't really tell what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. It was very difficult. I didn't know for months whether she actually liked me or not, or, whether this was just, I was kind of putting energy and effort into somewhere where I was never going to see a return. But I'm just going to rewind it a little bit to one of the first times. So I knew Rose when she was about 13. I was 14. And again, I was visiting the youth group of their chapel, which my cousin attended. And we both went carol singing together.
Yeah.
And that was when I first noticed Rose. And we were only so young, but I thought, I really like her.
Babies.
Which is very pretty. And so then a few years later, you actually visited our church in Leominster, and Rose was from the chapel. There was a dance group, a little dance troupe, and they came and did a dance at our church. And
dance ministry, guys.
Dance ministry is very powerful ministry.
Powerful.
And it was to Shackles.
Of course it was.
Mary Mary.
What else was there?
2003, let's go. And I think you were the choreographer as well.
Yeah. Might have been.
Anyway, it was brilliant, and she's actually a great dancer. I know this is embarrassing, but
It is embarrassing.
anyway, so I noticed the dancing, and I thought that gal over there, wow. Anyway, a few weeks later, I was actually thinking about. I remember where I was in my home in Lampsey. This is such a vivid moment for me, where I'm walking through my house, and I'd actually been previously in a relationship with a non-Christian girl, and it had gone on for about a year, and I'd known what the Bible had to say about, be equally yoked with someone, being someone of the same, not only same faith as you, but also knowing as well that you want the same things, you're going in the same direction. And but I was tempted away into this relationship, and I got involved, and it was kind of a year really where I not walked away from God, because I never stopped believing in God. I just didn't want to follow his ways. And so I was pursuing this relationship. And then after several months, I knew it was the wrong thing to do, but I just didn't want to hurt people. And so I just carried on for a while. But I finally kind of ended it and said, no, this has got to stop. And then I remember being in this moment in my house and thinking, I don't want to mess around anymore. I don't want to be
17.
getting involved. 17. I've just turned 17. And,
I'm over this. Grow up.
And so I was like, right, it's time to get serious.
Wow.
And I was like, I think that girl that I've met, that I've never spoken to, I'm going to pursue her.
Wow.
And I started thinking about it. And I have had, when I was growing up, I had no big career ambitions. I was never like, I want to do this, I want to travel here. I knew that I wanted to be married and to have a family. I even wrote that in my yearbook. And on your ambitions, I wrote I want to be married, and the yearbook team wrote back to me and just laughed at my ambition, because it was so romantic and innocent. But anyway, that is all I wanted, was married, have a family. That was my desire. And I think even when I was with you in that moment, I think one of the big things that I think for a lot of guys that I see is they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that more guys would be perhaps finding the person that they're looking for if they had the determination.
Yeah.
And I know we can kind of laugh at being 17, but there was this thought of I know what I want, which is I know I want to be serious. I want to be married. I want to have a family. It was vision. And I think that driving force, and I really believe that the Holy Spirit spoke to me in that moment and put you on my heart. And it was because otherwise, why would we sat here today? I mean, it was a God thing.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I'm like, right, I'm in. And I'm an all-in kind of person. So I just start showing up all the time. And I remember asking my cousin for Rose's number. And I'd only just got a phone that year, guys. So it was early stages of technology. But I got Rose's number. She said yes.
Yeah.
And I remember that your youth group visited that evening. And then that same evening was when I got your number, and I texted you for the first time. And when she texted me the first time, I was on cloud nine. I was so happy.
Yeah. I remember being in the bus on the way home and Josh's cousin saying, my cousin wants your number. Thinking, oh no, here we go. What's going to happen now?
So we started talking, and Rose was on this phone package that had 5 free text messages a day.
Yep.
So you had to make the most of every character.
Yeah.
And we would play this thing that was unspoken, but I would leave a little X for a kiss at the end.
You would play this thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I would play this thing.
Leave me out of it.
Oh, this is also embarrassing. Anyway, and so I would, and then I was obviously waiting for her to put one back on, and then she eventually did. And as soon as she put one on, I increased to 2. I increased to 2. Immediately, you have to know.
Like, wow, this guy's keen.
There's 2 for 1.
Okay.
So anyway, this goes on, and we create this, like, I would say, really good friendship through the summer, where it's like we would text and we would kind of be joking and talking about lots of different things in as much as you can in 5 messages. And then we would see each other like at the weekend, because I turned up at the youth barbecue once again. And when we saw each other, I would like walk up to be like, we're friends,
I couldn't do it.
And then we would
Don't talk
talk
to me.
so awkwardly for about 2 minutes, and then we would just part ways, and I was like, I've been waiting all week for this moment, and that was it. And I couldn't actually talk to your face. It was hard, because you were, you know, very beautiful, and so it was difficult to converse.
I think as well though, I was scared. I wasn't very confident, and we often say, if it hadn't been for phones and it hadn't been for text messages, I don't know how we would have actually got together, because I was so fearful. I really couldn't look you in the eye. I couldn't let you look me in the eye. I just was embarrassed about everything. And 16 is still, I think, that age where you're so excruciatingly self-conscious that you sort of, it's easier behind a screen, or it is easier behind a phone. And so we had with these 5 precious text messages every day. And you most of the time got most of those messages, if not all of them.
Yes.
And I think we were able to get to know each other in quite a gradual way because of that. But yeah, I was mortified, so embarrassed. But actually, after the whole of the summer passed and we spent those months, which I think I needed those months, just like talking to you, getting a sense of your personality and your sense of humour, and it was enough contact that we could share things about ourselves, but it wasn't so much. I'm actually grateful that it was just 5 texts a day, because I think if we'd have jumped straight into hours on the phone or big long conversations, or we had to build up to that. And any relationship, you do have to build some. You allow the person to see as much as you're comfortable with them seeing, and gradually that grows and gradually that snowballs. But really it was about 3 months, wasn't it, of foundation building for us, I would say. 3 months of friendship building and getting to know each other a little bit, with the understanding that we each like each other. I gradually let you know that. I think you probably read the hints, but it was slow.
I honestly didn't know until the moment we got together, because I wasn't convinced. I was like thinking, you might just be really nice to me, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Yeah, okay.
And it took about 3 months. And we actually, the whole kind of summer, so they had this amazing summer program with the church, and it culminated with this weekend where the whole church would go camping. Of course I was there, and taking my brother along with me as well. And the youth went for walks on the beach together.
Fantastic.
And Rose and I got to walk on the beach, and my brother George was there at one point. He was 13. And
walking in the middle of us.
He was walking right with us, and he was asking questions to Rose, like, about what are your greatest fears? And I'm like there behind him, like,
you better leave.
Move. Yeah, sorry, if you can't hear me, I'm like miming, get out of here. Like, please, give me a break here. Making subtle threats behind his head. Behind Rose. And trying to give him the hint that I would just like some time just with Rose now as we walk along this beach. And anyway,
funny.
After that, it was that weekend, wasn't it? That we got together.
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't have to wonder anymore. And it was an amazing moment. And I was so happy. So that's how we got together. Yeah,
it was great. And then immediately when we got home, Josh rang me. He called my phone. And I was, suddenly sweaty palms, stress.
Oh, this is serious.
Undertones.
He's calling my house.
Oh my gosh, he's calling. He's ringing like a real boyfriend. And once again, I was scared. So I think the theme has been slowly for Rose. I have taken some time to adjust to some things. I mean, when we went on that walk, I had decided by that point, okay, I'm in and I'm interested. So I did kiss you. But
I almost left that out, but it's true.
Generally,
She kissed me first.
I did,
Okay.
because he'd spent 3 months, putting in the investment, poor kid. So I thought, I better
It was a
explain to
shock. I
him.
was not expecting it.
But other than that, it was slowly. And we lived a good distance apart and neither of us could drive.
Yeah.
So the way that we spent time together, again, was quite controlled and quite, you would come over, maybe in the week, I'd come over and stay at your house on the weekend. We're both living at home with our parents. Like, we're a part of the family. We're a part of the...
Yes.
There's little
I
brothers
wasn't
and
going
sisters
out on
around.
any dates or anything
No.
like that. It's like I couldn't even drive. So
Yeah,
it's
we're
like, hey, do
just
you want to come round and
hanging out for a movie
for a
with your
family
family.
meal with my parents?
Yeah. It's
So
quite sweet.
it was very different kind of relationship, and we're so grateful for it.
Yeah.
But as we started to kind of, go on this journey of a relationship together, I would come stay with my auntie, but I didn't want to be like putting on them. So I would end up getting a train from Leominster to Hereford, and that was like a 20-minute train journey. And we lived 30 minutes from the train station. So I'd walk 30 minutes to the train station, 20 minutes on the train, then walk to the bus station and get a bus out to the where my auntie lived. And then I didn't, again, want to put on my auntie. So I was like, if I can borrow my cousin's bike, who was a girl, I was like, I could cycle over. It was like 3-mile bike ride over to Rose's farm. And so I just remember like arriving at Rose's house. My hair was all on end from the wind. I'd had like flies going in my face. But I was just so excited to be there.
Yeah.
And then I think your dad like took me back.
Yeah.
We're putting the bike back in the truck.
My parents probably couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
16, and there's this boy
gosh.
showing up, and
he's
I think
serious.
probably it was quite obvious that we were serious. And in a way, I think that's so lovely because, like you say, you knew from an early age that's what I want. I knew the same, although I probably hadn't maybe put it in quite the same framework in my head. But I always knew I want to be a mum. I want to have a family. I want to. Just be committed to somebody. I'm not really interested in anything else. And so I think in our ways we both knew, and I think that's a fantastic thing to be able to just vocalize, this is what I want, this is what I'm hoping for. I think that lots of people are afraid to do that because maybe you're opening yourself up for some heartache, and the fear is, what if it doesn't happen for me that way? What if I do have to wait? What if that person isn't there for me right now? And I think those are really valid and real fears, but they shouldn't make us not ask, or they shouldn't make us kind of ashamed or afraid to say, that is what I want. I want to be with somebody. I want to be building a life and building a family with somebody.
Yeah.
I think that maybe people sometimes that I meet today don't really know how to vocalize that, or they almost feel embarrassed of that because it's maybe not a big grand ambition. I think it's the most important ambition there is. And the thing with God is we have to be willing to say, Lord, I want to ask you for this, and I will still trust you if this isn't what you bring me. But I think that there is something in just being clear and asking and saying, this is what I want.
Absolutely. And I think that even for us as we were getting together, there was this understanding, wasn't there? There was this alignment with, we're going to follow Jesus together. We're going to have God at the center of our relationship. You started attending the church that I was, like our church in Leominster, and becoming a part of that. And we had some difficulties navigating some of that, didn't we? Because I think that was really, I remember that was our first contention that we had, because you were so involved and loved the community that you had. There was obviously something different that was happening with our church, and we didn't want to be going to separate places. So it was like, well, I think we should be going here. And it was quite an early time. I think it was only 3 or 4 months into our relationship, having the conversation. But it was difficult, wasn't it? And it was emotional.
Yeah, it was. And I think we also had to figure some things out together that as a kid, really, we had only ever seen one way. So I think we talked about some things about like what will be the rhythms of our relationship and who will do what and what will be the different roles. And you'd seen or had in mind one way, I had in mind a different way. And so kind of finding the common ground or the compromise in some of that, it wasn't always easy because we're both quite strong and we're both quite
Yes.
We're both quite firm on our direction, and there's just something about tying your lives together, whatever age you are, whether you're 16 and 17 or in your 20s or in your 30s or in your 40s, you still got to figure out a way to tie your lives together. And we definitely had some good zingers of some
did.
disagreements, but ultimately we knew we want to be together and we want to love each other and serve each other. And so you can always find a way through. But we had to kind of navigate some different opinions and different ideas that we were each holding to. For
sure. And then, so we ended up being in a relationship where we were just kind of going out and boyfriend and girlfriend. That was 3 years.
Yep.
And we got about 2.5 years into that, and we got engaged, and that was amazing and so special. And then we started a conversation with Rose's parents about when we could get married, and Rose was just turning 19 as we got engaged. So still 18, just about to turn 19 in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go for the birthday engagement because I thought too predictable. So
and I did not see it coming. You did a good job. You completely surprised me.
Yeah.
It was great.
I took her out. We went to an old broken down castle, and we went out for dinner that night. So we had a dinner plan, and before we went into this old pub for dinner, I said, why don't we just go and check out the castle, like a little bit of an adventure before we go for dinner. So we went in there and we're kind of looking around the place. It was nighttime, and I'd waited for it to be a full moon, so we had like the light and it would all be kind of, but it was, the UK
Britain.
in March. So of course
not the
there was no moon out because it was cloud cover. Anyway, we went out and Rose was kind of looking around, checking out the castle, and I got down on one knee as she was turned the other way, took out the ring from my pocket, flicked it open.
Unbelievable.
And I said, Rose, will you marry me? And then as I start to kind of go into my speech, she starts hitting me.
I couldn't believe
she starts hitting me on the shoulder.
Over on me.
And she's like, I knew you were going to do this. I knew it. But what
didn't.
She actually meant was,
I had no idea.
I didn't know you were going to do this.
Yeah. I knew you were going to surprise me. It was. It made total sense in my head. It was one of those evenings, women listening to this, where I did not want to go out. I was ready to sit on the sofa, watch something on TV. It was a little bit cold, wasn't it? It was a little bit wet. I wasn't fully in the mood, and then we started walking around, and then he gets down on one knee, starts proposing. So I was like, I can't believe it. I'm completely blindsided, but it was amazing. It was really amazing.
And I remember just being hit on the shoulder again and again. And she's not assaulting me. This is just kind of play hitting, but getting hit on the shoulder again and again, and I can feel the wet of the ground seeping through my jeans on the floor as my knee is getting wet, and I'm like, well, have you got an answer for me? She still hasn't said anything yet, and then she says, yes, I'm going to marry you, and then I picked you up.
Yeah, and then we went in this lovely pub to eat some
9.
food. And I think they had some champagne ready for us. And probably when they saw us walk through the door, they thought, these kids don't look old enough to drink champagne.
Yeah, I told them I was going to
ID'd.
propose. I had a good guess that she would say yes. So
babies.
Yeah, but we went in. So anyway, but we had to then talk about when are we going to get married. And your parents got married, didn't they, when your mum was 19?
Yeah.
And my dad was 19 when they got married. So we're like, hey, guys, come on. We know you know what this is like. But Rose's parents really wanted her to go to university. And it's one of those things, isn't it, where you really want to honour your parents and you want to seek their, you're still living there, you want to seek their counsel, you want to do things with their approval. But also, we had to stick to hey, we are adults, we can make our own decision, and we had to navigate, didn't we? Listening and understanding their hearts and their desire and their advice for you, which was, we want you to go and get further education first, with doing we've been together already 2.5 years. We don't want to wait another 3 years while you go to university. So having to kind of find the balance there of the two.
Yeah. So we got married 6 months later.
Yeah, so we won.
So
No, the compromise was that that we agreed that you would go to university,
Yeah.
that you would travel, that we would
Yeah.
get married before, but you would still go and get a degree.
Yeah, so I started university the week after returning from my honeymoon, which surprised a lot of people. But I did have a nice tan. So
You were sat
Pretty
next to people, weren't you? And
Yeah.
they were saying, "Oh, you look very brown." You were like,
I said,
"Yeah."
I've just been on honeymoon.
They were
And people's
shocked.
faces. That's not a typical experience in
Yes,
the UK.
no.
19 years old and newlywed.
Not
That was
really.
great.
I do think though that there is something to be said of like, if you know it's right, don't
overcomplicate
delay
it.
and wait and wait and wait. It's that actually, if you know it's right, you don't have to have the perfect wedding. You're better off starting to build a life together. And I think one of the things that we've been married this year, it will be, so it's 18 years we've been married right now, but it'll be 19 this year. And I think one of the things that we're so grateful for is that not everyone gets this. Everyone's got a different journey, but
Yeah.
we feel very blessed that we got to know each other very young and
Yeah.
really grown up together. And it's been an
Yeah.
amazing like grace on it, isn't
Yeah,
it? So
definitely.
with those first few years of marriage, it was great, wasn't it? And I think that we got our little apartment that we had in our home city. So Rose moved from the farm. I moved from my little town of Leominster. We moved into the big city of Hereford. Had 60,000 people, but we
Massive.
felt like, wow, this is amazing.
Yep.
And we started our lives there. It was so awesome. We had like a 2-week honeymoon, and after about 10 days, we were like, okay, we're ready to go back because we want to
Yeah.
start building our lives now.
Yeah.
And so we came home, we unpacked everything, we started our life. It's the first
Great.
time either of us had moved out of home. And we then start building into our marriage.
Yeah.
And it was like a dream come true, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it
what
was
we've been
great.
waiting years for.
Yeah, it was so fun.
But then also we were like leading within church together. So Rose and I have always, in some way, it feels like we've been leading, but trying to navigate
Yeah.
how to do that is not always been straightforward, is it?
No, for sure. And I'm sure we'll have a whole conversation about that at some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have had to figure each other out. The whole process of a relationship is getting to know the other person and getting to know their strengths and how do those work alongside your strengths, and how do you make a balance of what it is that you're gifted to
Yeah.
do. And when you're very similar and when you both desire to like be involved in shaping things, you both have ideas, it's difficult. That can be difficult. It's a challenging dynamic to figure out, well, whose idea wins and how who's going to make the call on that and who's going to lead the way on that. That's a challenging thing. But I think that's been something that God has helped us grow in and learn over all of the years together.
For sure. So we're going to round this out now then with just a few things that we love about our marriage. So
Yeah.
Rose prepared 3 things.
Yes.
I prepared 3. Maybe you'll relate to some of these things. I don't know. Maybe this is more uniquely us. But do you want to kick us off with your
Yeah,
first
okay.
one that you've got?
Yeah, we don't know what each other is going to say as well. So there could be some repeats here. I imagine there probably will be some
Probably.
repeats. Okay, the first thing that I love about our marriage is we have fun.
Yeah,
I just
had
think-
that one.
I just think there's so much in this life that we can find intensity in, and there's so much that we have to participate in, and life can come with its pressures, life can come with its challenges, but in a marriage, I think you guys should know the source of fun and joy
Yeah,
and just
for sure.
the joy of being together. And I am really grateful that we have fun. I'm really grateful that we have the ability to really laugh with one another, laugh at one another, not take each other too seriously, not take
feel like
ourselves.
it's usually you laughing at me.
I love laughing at you. I absolutely love it. You're one of the funniest people in the whole world. And sometimes it's on purpose and sometimes it's by accident, but it is so funny. And we just always have had the ability to really laugh a lot together. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the things that I remember about when we were first dating. In some ways we didn't have a ton in common, but we would laugh and laugh. And when we were at your parents' house, they would always comment like how loud. I don't think I've got that loud a laugh, but maybe I was a bit loud. because we would just have so much fun. One of the things that Josh used to do in our relationship is he used to entertain me by, firstly, I think this was not intentional, but anytime Josh sang to any songs, the lyrics were wildly off, just not even close to what the artist had intended them to be. So that always made me laugh. You used to dance to the advert breaks.
That's right.
Any jingles, any commercial ads.
It's like a challenge.
Yeah.
What's your move
Just
for
to
this?
give me some interpretive dance to this.
Particular
Is there
music.
anything funnier than interpretive dance? So funny.
There are some videos that should never see the light of day because they are
You ask me,
humiliating.
I'll show you. But yeah, we just had so much fun. And I think we still have fun. And I think that we just want to enjoy life. So that's one thing that I love about our marriage.
I wrote that down as well because I think there is something of like, so we've always come back to, you know, right from the beginning to today, like we're going to have friendship, fun, laughter at the heart of our marriage. And that's something we contend for, and it's something we keep making time for, and we've got to be intentional about. And I love that about, you know, our relationship.
And it is a really good checkpoint. I think whenever you have been in a relationship for a decent amount of time, it is one of the things you need to come back to and think about. Are we having fun? How could we have fun? One of the best ways to do it is to change up your scenery, I think, and go somewhere different, be
for sure.
in a different environment, because the monotony of life, particularly in a family home when there's kids and other demands on your time and your attention, it can be easy to lose some of that. But I think it is something that we check in on regularly, is like, how can we go and have some fun? And sometimes it will be as simple as, we're at the age now where we can, you know, leave our oldest in charge of the house for a bit. Maybe we'll go out for an hour, 2 hours, we'll go for a walk, we'll go for a drink, we'll just change up the environment and inevitably we'll end up having some fun.
Definitely, and that I think links kind of to my second one, which is about if one of us have an idea, the other gets behind it.
Yeah.
And you can even go back to what you were saying around the whole engagement story. You know, you're feeling like, don't really fancy it. Hey, I want to go out. Let's do something.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to get behind the idea.
Yes.
And sometimes our disposition can be, for a lot of us, I think, to like not want to do anything. And that's okay sometimes to have, you know, a relaxed night or whatever. And we can't, but it takes more energy and effort and intentionality to say, hey, what about we go and do this? Let's step out and let's change our rhythm. And we had this just recently. You said, oh, why don't we go out for a walk? And I was like, let's make it a dinner and a walk. And like let's, you know, I'm going to take your idea and actually add to it rather than be like, oh, I don't really fancy
Persuade
that.
me.
Because I think one of the things that can be difficult, again, in any relationship, if you're always trying to fight against like this resistance to want to do things, it's hard enough to almost plan things and be intentional. So it's like if someone's saying something, instead of feeling like, what do you feel like? Do you want to do that? Just get behind it. Go for it. You make memories. It's more unique. And I think that's one of the things that's being, you know, I value. Hey, we're far from a perfect marriage, and we're just sharing some things that, you know, we found that have been a blessing to us. But one of the things I've loved is being out, like getting behind each other.
Yeah, I think anybody who knows Josh will know that he loves to go and do things. He's really good at making things happen. And I know about myself that I'm not always that way inclined. I think there was also something about being a mum, and particularly through the recent season of our life, you know, you see it a lot on social media, terms like overstimulated and kids are like on you, and sometimes all you want is a break, to be still, to do nothing. And there's times for that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that in measure. But I know that my leaning will be more to, let's like hunker down, let's cozy up, let's like be in. And Josh will have a desire to go out or to do things. And just even recently, like we went camping for the night, and that's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and you think, oh, is there a simpler way? But I've realised about myself, one of the gifts that I can give to those ideas is to just be willing and to just say yes.
Yeah, you're so good at it.
And it might not always be my first thought, but if I can find it in myself to lend my support to the idea, I'm going to do it. And vice versa too, but I would say a lot of the time, your instinct is more like, let's go out, let's do something, let's go somewhere. And my instinct sometimes can be to resist that, but I've decided, it's a decision you have to make. If we can have fun, if we can make a memory, I want to do it. So, I think that's something that I love about our marriage as well, is we will go and do the fun things. We will go camping for that and just be somewhere different. And do I always feel like it? Am I naturally an adventure girl? Honestly, not really. But I've learned that when I say yes, there's great reward in it. So, I love that. Do you want me to give my second one?
Yeah, go on.
My second one, I think, is that we're a team. I really love the fact that we are a team. And on my notes, I put versus the kids. Love you, kids. But I do think it's really important that whenever children can, they will look for an opportunity to kind of get involved in a situation in a way that makes them the winner. And I know of Josh and I that we are a team, and that if I say something to the kids, his response is going to be, well, what's your mum said? Or I agree with your mum, or vice versa. We are a team. And it goes way beyond parenting, but I think that's just a really good example of it. There might be times when, we're going to talk one another round to a different point of view, but not with the kids in earshot. And I think that there's something about us that we've decided to be unified. At the moment, that comes out in scenarios where the children are involved. But I think generally we're a team, and I love that about our marriage, that we have come to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses and how we can operate best, how we can make things happen. And I do just like the fact that we're never pulling against each other. Yeah. We, as much as humanly possible, are going to try and pull in the same direction.
For sure.
And just be unified in things. Because a lot of the time, the things that we'd be tempted to fall out about, or the things that we historically would have fallen out about, they're just not that important.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter,
That's right.
There's things that we probably in the past have given time and energy to disagreeing over that actually is like the smallest deal in the grand scheme of things. So more so over the years, I think we've just learnt to go with one another and agree and be unified, be a team. And I really value being in a dynamic where when I can hear the kids asking Josh something that they've just asked me 10 minutes before, I really value the fact that he's like, well, this, I agree with you, mum, or this is what, because I think that makes for just
mum all the way. I'm mum. I am.
But it makes for a great home, doesn't
it? Does.
Just to be unified in those kind of ways.
Sure.
So I love that we're a team. And that largely, I don't even need to ask Josh what his opinion is. If he's already answered, I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Yeah. All the kids know, I love Rose, she's number one. And, in the healthiest way possible, they are second to that.
Yeah.
And they know that, they accept it. And I think it's important for a marriage. It's like, no, we're gonna keep choosing each other first.
Yeah.
The last one for me that I was gonna say is that I think we adapt and we overcome. We've been through a lot of stuff over the years, and we've had to flex and change and adapt.
Yeah.
But we always overcome together.
Yeah.
And it's like there's something I believe that when things come our way, we do unify in it.
Yeah.
And conquer it together. And I just, one of the things I appreciate, we've had, a lot of challenges, even moving countries together and starting life all over again, starting the church here in Raleigh from scratch. And it's been a really surprising journey. Even now, there's been things that have not been straightforward, but through it all, because of our faith, because of God, because of who we know that He's called us to be in it, and holding on to our faith together, we adapt, we overcome.
Yeah. My third one is we are for the kingdom. I think we just can't help it. And I think we found something in each other that's very similar. I think it's really important to have the same goals and the same kind of priorities. And Josh grew up as a pastor's kid, which isn't really a massive point in the UK, but he grew up surrounded by church things. I grew up with a huge fascination and desire for God and for the church. And I think we just found something in common in that has actually been really important for our marriage. And we talk to couples a lot, and I would say something that can be a tension in the home is how much time you give to certain things, how much time you give to your hobbies, how much time you give to your friends, how much time you give to your family. But a common one in the way that we live is, people can disagree about how much time they invest in the church. And I think that we have never really had to talk about it. We just are for the kingdom. Josh talked earlier about our honeymoon and how it was, about 10 days in, we were ready to just get started with our lives. It was great being on vacation together, but we were just ready to hit the ground running. And so we just started dreaming up these different ministry things that we would love to see, or that we'd one day love to be a part of. And I think we just can't help ourselves. Our dreams are the same, and that dream is the church.
Yes.
And not everybody is called to full-time ministry. Not everybody is called necessarily to be engaged in the church in that way. But if you can dream together about what you want to see God do in your life, in your children, in your marriage, in your friendships, I think that's just something so healthy. And we will often end up talking and dreaming about the same things, and all of those things are the kingdom. We will be quick to pray for one another. We'll be quick to, and that all sounds really good. And honestly, we're not perfect. We don't always get those things right. But I do think, I just love about our marriage that we are both for the kingdom. And if you are chasing after God and you know that He's what you want to live for, you have to have a similar desire in a partner, because it's too important to be pulling in two different directions on that. And I'm just grateful that, I think probably without us even talking about it, we just both wanted that.
For sure. And I think that even as you say that, Rose, not everyone's called to work for a church or to make that the full focus, but everyone is called to the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's something we can all play a part in, and that is all the call, anyone who follows Jesus. So I think that's a great thought to end on. And we hope this has been helpful to listen to. We've got some more content coming your way in the coming weeks. We're excited to share that with you. And to go through this series, really believe it's going to do something in our church. But as we close this out, I just want to say that I think sometimes when you start looking at marriage and you start listening to things, I think that you can often think, well, we're not doing enough of this. And, this is where our marriage is lacking. And even perhaps that's some of the nature of listening to some of what we're saying. But I want to encourage you to have a conversation like this and start thinking about what are the things that I love about our relationship. Because when you start with that foundation of gratitude, of thanks, of recognizing the goodness that is in your relationship, you can then do more of that good thing and then add to it, rather than thinking about, these are all the things we're getting wrong, we're failing in. So have a conversation like this. Start writing down, start thinking about what are the 3 things for you perhaps that you're grateful for. If you're a married person, what are the 3 things that you love about your marriage?
And if you're not married, if you're listening to this and you just want us to know a little bit more of our story or hear a little bit more of our experience of marriage, really encourage you to get dreaming with God and get confident in what it is that you're asking Him for. Maybe what are some of the attributes that you want your future relationships to have. It's no bad thing to submit those things to God, to start praying on them, and to start asking Him to show you how you can work towards those things in preparation for all that's ahead of you.
Great stuff. Rose, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, thank you so much for joining, everyone, and we'll be back soon.